Before we get started, happy Monday. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Transformational Monday. I am, of course, Dr. JaNee. Welcome to Transformational Mondays with Dr. JaNee. And you may be asking yourself, one, what is Transformational Mondays? I'm so glad that you asked. Let me just say that I am glad that you're here, whether you're live, whether you're watching in and tuning in on replay. Transformational Monday is all about you getting the tips for your life and your business that you need in order to renew your mind so that your life and your business will be transformed. I am your host. I am Dr. JaNee Mobley. I'm affectionately known as Dr. JaNee, and I work with God-fearing women who are all about moving in their purpose, taking the idea that God has given them and moving forward with it with boldness, intention, and without any excuses. So, what separates me from everybody else who does exactly what I do is I'm really focused on helping to build my clients and shift their mindsets so that as they build their businesses, they're growing themselves first. Like we learn to make ourselves the priority, not the business. And what that does is it helps us to be able to position ourselves to serve our audience, our customers, our clients in a way that is full of joy, peace, and intentional the way that God wanted us to do it so that we can have huge impact in the life that God has called us to. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit the share button and make sure you share this live with about 2 or 3 people. Tonight we're going to talk about overwhelm. I promise y'all my goal is to be done by 9:45. Why? Well, I'm glad that you asked. Today is day one of the 4 days of prayer at 4 a.m. So your girl has been up since about probably three. Nope, that's not true. Before 3:45. So I've been up between 3:20 and 3:45 a.m. and have not gone back to sleep. And that is perfectly fine. But I just want to make sure that I am well rested so that I can serve in the morning for prayer. The 4 days of prayer at 4 a.m. is literally something that I do every day. I believe God has called me to do every third week of every month, where we go before the throne of grace and we petition God together, anywhere from 15 minutes to 30 minutes or whatever, however God leads. So make sure you set your alarm clock and join us for prayer at 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, because I know that this is the World Wide Web. So let's get into it. Tonight we're going to talk about overwhelm. And I want to ask you, have you ever felt overwhelmed? If you've ever experienced being overwhelmed or you are overwhelmed, make sure you put a 1 in the comments. I want, and this is very important, because I understand that you are not just building a business. Let's just be clear. You are, you probably identify with all of the above. You are a wife, a parent, so your mom. You may be a caretaker for other loved ones. You may be working a full time job all while you're building your business. And guess what? You are a woman, for my women on here, right? And at the same time of you building this business, which is this external thing, you still have all of these other responsibilities. And what happens is that life can get overwhelming, or it all can get overwhelming. I looked up the definition of overwhelm and I found it quite interesting, the definitions of overwhelm. So, one of the definitions that really stood out for me, when I looked up overwhelm, it means to bury or drown beneath a huge mass. Good evening. And that is one of the definitions from Oxford. It means to bury or drown beneath a huge mass. Another definition of overwhelm means to defeat completely, right? And that can be a good thing, because if you are the team, if you have an opponent and you overwhelm your team, you've defeated your team, right? But think about it from the perspective of you versus you, right? Where you put so much on your plate, or you allow so much on your plate, that you completely bury yourself with all of the stuff that you have either, in overall, agreed to have on your plate. So what does that look like? It looks like when somebody comes and asks you things, instead of you giving yourself the time to think about it, you allow self-inflicted guilt or the guilt of others to make you say yes when you really don't want to do it. You think about the needs of others before you consider yourself. So instead of saying, no, give me a few days, give me a moment, let me consider some things before I say yes. Or even before all that, you just say no because you don't want to do it. But instead, what a lot of people do is they say yes and they add it onto their plate. And then somebody else will come say, oh, can you do this? Yes. And you add it onto your plate. And it may not have anything to do with, one, your purpose, your gift. Two, it may not have anything to do with something that you want to do or you enjoy doing. But you do it all because maybe you're a yes person or you don't want to hurt people's feelings. But let me tell you something that I had to learn. In order to keep my mind, certain things I have to say no to. And here's the thing, and we're going to get into the content. So make sure you all share this, make sure you invite 2 or 3 people, because I understand that in order for you to get this business built successfully, there are other things in your personal life that you're going to have to get into alignment, right? So let's get started. I have 3 points, and I told y'all my goal is to be done by 9:45. It is 9:38. I promise I'm going to try not to be, you know how they talk about the preacher, how they say, oh, they're going to be done in a couple of minutes and they don't be done. I'm going to try. Like, that's going to be my goal, because y'all, I need to get in the bed. All right. So number 1, whenever you are feeling overwhelmed, right? The first thing I want you to do is stop. Like, literally stop. Because what happens is when most people are overwhelmed, they're running here, they're running there, they're doing this, they're doing that, and they're running. They're physically running, but also they're mentally and emotionally running, and you haven't given yourself time to rest. What happens to a vehicle once it runs out of gas? The vehicle stops. The vehicle ain't going nowhere. Right? I have a dear friend of mine. Her name is Detrell Hawkins. She was my first life coach. And she has, one of her big focuses now is self-care for women. And if you don't know who she is, make sure you go on Facebook and find her. Her name is Detrell, literally spelled that way, Hawkins. Amazing, like amazing woman. Shout out to my dear sister friend Detrell. And she teaches her clients self-care. And self-care is more than just going to get your nails done, your hair done, but it's seeing about self, everything that pertains to self, right? So one of the things that I understand is that when a vehicle runs out of fuel, runs out of gas, diesel, and even those that are electric, once it runs out of what makes it run effectively, the vehicle will stall. It will stop. It will move no more. The same thing happens to human beings after a while when they refuse to stop. Their bodies will mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually give out on them. and it will make you stop. So instead, even when you're feeling overwhelmed, like you're buried, like it just becomes too much, just stop for a minute. Like I literally, this is something that I have to do throughout the day. Whether I get inundated with ideas or I have a whole lot going on, or whether I have meetings or whether I have projects, I just literally stop and just sit for a minute. Because what it does is when you stop is you get mental clarity, you can come to yourself, and more than anything, the Bible says, be slow to speak and swift to hear. When you're always running, you cannot hear the voice of God clearly. And here is the thing. God is the one who created you and put you here on this earth. So he is the one who should be ordering our steps, not ourselves. Number two, he gave you this purpose, this vision, this idea. So guess what? He is the same one, just like Jeremiah, who will tell you how to lead the business that he has called for you to lead. But if you are running from the very one who is your help, how will you get the support that you need? So the first thing to do is to just completely stop. The second thing that I'm going to squeeze in there is to give yourself grace. Quit trying to be superwoman. Quit trying to handle it all. And I'm not sure who coined this mentality of weak people cry, or weak, or it gives you somehow some great strength when you're handling everything. That is the craziest thing ever. There's a reason why the scripture tells us to cast our cares on him. Anytime you cast anything, it means to throw. So there's a reason why God tells his children to cast your cares. That means anything that concerns you, anything that worries you, anything that is on your mind, he's literally telling us to throw that at him. But what most people do is they carry it. And carrying all of that stuff leads to you literally burying yourself. I want you to picture yourself at a beach and you being somebody burying you in sand. Right? And the more they just pour stuff on top of you, literally, after a while, you're going to be completely covered and submerged. This is what it's like to be overwhelmed. This is what it's like to completely cover yourself with so much stuff that it makes it hard for you to breathe. So number one, you just need to stop and give yourself time to listen to the voice of God. Give God time to refuel you and rebuild you. This is one of the reasons why my goal is to be off and no more. Like I'm literally, y'all give me 5 minutes and I'm going to be done. Okay? So number one, stop. Give God time to refuel you. Just like when your vehicle is low on gas, guess what do? You pull up to the nearest gas station and you refuel. But guess what needs to be done? You have to stop. In order to properly fill that tank and not waste fuel, you have to stop and allow the vehicle to be refueled. Now here's the thing. The vehicle is a thing. The vehicle is not a person. So if a thing needs to stop to be refilled, are you less than a vehicle? So just like that car, just like that truck has to stop to be refueled, you need to do the same thing. Stop. And refuel yourself. Sometimes that's just like literally just taking time to just think. Taking time to just to feel your pulse, to hear your heartbeat, to feel your heartbeat. Okay? Number two, identify where the overwhelm came from. What is the source of the overwhelm? Is it that you have things, and 9 times out of 10, I guarantee you, how many of you all, and put a two in the comments, have put so much stuff, and a lot of the stuff that you have on your plate ain't even your stuff, or it's not even stuff that you want to do. But you just did it because you didn't want to tell somebody no. Identify the root. In order for you to properly kill a tree or to kill a plant, you have to uproot it. You literally have to take that root from the ground. You have to pull up the whole thing. So you need to identify the root of your overwhelm and begin to pull it up. Hold on a second. Let me dim this light just a little bit. There we go. I like that glow a little bit better. Okay? So identify the source of the overwhelm. Where did it come from? And here is the thing. The next and the last thing, because I told you I was going to be done in a few minutes, is what on your plate do you need to let go of? And I'm going to help you identify it. What did you say yes to that you know you should have said no to? I'm going to ask you that again. What on your list did you say yes to that you should have said no to? That is the first thing that you need to get off of you. And if you have the mentality that you don't want to hurt other people's feelings, the reality of it is if you continue to do things that you know you're not supposed to do, you're going to get bitter and you're going to get angry. And guess what? You're going to end up going off on people anyway. And the other thing is you're going to make yourself sick. If you're going to serve, hi, Common, welcome from Israel. Welcome, 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 welcome. Okay, now that part I can't even answer for you. I'll pray this for you, Common. I prayed this for you. One of the things that I truly understand in reading the Bible is that God always loved Israel. So my belief and my prayer is that the hand of God will be upon Israel. That the peace of God will be upon Israel. That is my prayer. That is my prayer. So getting back to an amen on that part. So here's the thing. Number 2. So the first part to overcome overwhelm is that number 1, we need to stop and give ourselves grace. Stop and give ourselves the opportunity for God to refuel us. Number 2, identify where the root of the overwhelm. What caused the overwhelm? How do we do this? You identify the very thing that you said yes to that you know that you should have said no to. And make it your responsibility of taking that very thing, that very obligation off of your plate. Because here's a sidebar. One thing I truly understand is that we have to learn to be okay with saying no. Especially if you know you're not supposed to do it. Here's my tip, and I'm going to get off in just a few minutes. When people ask something of me, whether it's personal or business, I have learned to tell people or ask people, give me a moment, or I give myself a moment, or I give myself 24 hours to make a decision. What this does is it gives me time to make a sound decision instead of an emotional decision. Now, if it's something that is pressing, then I can still give myself time to make a decision. You can't force me to do nothing right now. So this allows me to go in prayer, because here's the thing. One of the things that I'm learning about my life is that my life is not my own. And if God is the one, since I know God created me, I have to learn, and I'm learning to ask him and to seek his face about things that I say yes to. Literally, like, God, is this what you want me to do? Or is this something that you don't want me to do? Because I was one, I would say yes to a lot of things. Now I'm taking a step back, because one, for business, I have to identify whether this is in alignment with my purpose and the call that God has on my life and what he wants me to do in business. If it ain't, I need to say no. One thing I truly understand is that time is, outside of Jesus Christ, time is one of our most valuable gifts that we cannot buy back. So, as promised, I told you I was going to be closing out. So, one, and I'm going to continue, I'll have to continue this conversation. Number one, to learn how to handle overwhelm healthy, you got to stop and allow God to refuel you. Literally, just stop in your tracks. If you're in your vehicle, park it and stop and give yourself a moment. Give God time to refuel you. Number two, identify what is the cause of the overwhelm. The way that you identify that is you go back to all of your lists or to-do lists. What is the very thing that you say yes to that you know you should have said no to? And it's time to get that off of your plate. Number three, be comfortable with telling people no. Give yourself time to make a sound decision. Give yourself time to consider, if saying yes to whatever this is, what that's going to look like for your life, so that you do not overwhelm yourself. So if any of these tips have helped you, make sure you leave me a comment below. Again, we have prayer in the morning at 4 a.m. I pray that you all have a delightful evening, and I appreciate you all for joining me. Remember to know your worth. Good night, y'all. Bye.